Hello everyone, in today's new video, we're going to talk about Resident Evil 4, the remake of the original game. I'm going to talk about the plot and the ending, so let's get started. Following the destruction of Raccoon City, Leon S. Kennedy undergoes grueling training under Major Jack Crossers and becomes an agent for the US government in 2004. Leon is dispatched to rescue the president's daughter, which is called Ashley Graham, who is being held captive in a village in Europe. Leon discovers the villages are hostile, controlled by a parasite called Las Plagas, and have pledged themselves to the Los Illuminados cult. I think that is how it is said. Now that I got a bit of information about the story, let's go into the ending. Like the original game, the remake ends with a climatic battle against Osmond Saddler. After a long battle with a mutated cultist, Ada Wong saves the day by tossing Leon S. Kennedy a red rocket launcher. With a blast and a stab to the eye, Leon defends Saddler but is knocked backward onto a metal gate, dropping a sample of the Emperor containing the Plaga virus in the process. That's where the story starts to diverge. As in the original game, Ada Wong essentially double-crosses Leon by taking the sample from him at a gunpoint. There's no explanation for the betrayal, as Ada quickly jumps into a helicopter, starts a timer on a bomb hidden in the island, and tosses Leon the key to a jet ski. She's purely a villain in 2005 edition's climax. Things play out very differently in 2023. Rather than holding a gun to Leon's head, Ada simply picks up the sample while Leon is lying down and notes that she and Louis have an arrangement. She casually strolls over to an approaching helicopter, promising to take good care of the sample, and climbs on board. It isn't a dramatic escape. Ada even asks Leon if she wants to join him on the helicopter. He declines and notes that it's where the duo goes their separate ways. As Ada leaves, an explosion rocks the island, prompting Ada to toss Leon her jet ski key. She doesn't set the bomb off herself, further removing the original supervillain ending. Instead, Ada comes off as a much more of an anti-hero, the final helping Leon and Ashley escape. The time gate wait sequence that follows plays out mostly the same way as Leon and Ashley make their way to the jet ski and safely navigate off the island before it blows up. The final moment has Leon and Ashley sharing a friendly moment on the jet ski. Notably, it gets rid of a creepy line where Ashley asks Leon if he'd like to do a little overtime with her, which is kind of cringy.
How about we do some overtime?
Sorry.
Instead, she asks Leon if he'd like her to put a good word in with her dad, who happens to be the president, to get Leon assigned to her security detail. He declines, noting that she can take care of herself. It's a sweet moment that addresses one of the original biggest criticisms, giving the damsels in distress, while giving a better, more complete character.
You know, I could put in a word with my dad. Have you assigned to my detail, if you're interested?
You don't need me. You proved you could handle yourself. Even if you could use a lesson in knife safety. Come on. Let's go home.
Now let's talk about some differences from the original game and the remake. Starting off with the autosave, which is a thing now. This is great news because you'll no longer be sent back to the last typewriter you've used each time. While the original had a fairly limited save feature when entering certain areas, there is a proper auto-server slot now. It's definitely a welcome addition, especially in places with large enemy groups or even boss encounters. That said, some difficulty options such as professional mode get rid of the option completely. In case you want to experience more of the original, then you should choose that mode. The Resident Evil 4 remake is pretty much an action game through and through, but in general, the tone leans toward darker environments with darker colors, with Leon having to use his flashlight often, as well as the grittier sequences around familiar enemies and story moments. So if you're not a fan of the horror genre, then maybe this is not the game for you. Next is something about the merchant. The merchant is quite talkative. in the Resident Evil 4 remake, and he will often comment on your purchases with either mockery, gratitude, or a bit of both. His voice is quite different too, which may or may not be a shame if you're an avid fan of the original, yet most of his iconic lines remain present, and the new ones are a good fit with his attitude, taking into consideration that we don't really know much about the character.
That interests you? Got a selection of good things on sale, stranger.
Now let's see some differences that the game has with the same scenes.
Try using knives next time. Better for close encounters.
Not a bad move.
What are they?
Shh. Keep your voice down.
But what about programming? In terms of combat mechanics, attention was made to modernize the gameplay in line with Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, and of course Resident Evil Village. To assist in aiming, the original game used a red laser sight on each weapon, but this has now been replaced with a reticule, more in keeping with recent games. To appease fans preferring the laser, however, Capcom made sure to include it as an attachment early on. Like with Resident Evil 2, the knife now has limited durability and will become worn with use, but can be modified. A new addition is the bolt thrower, a crossbow which can be used down individual enemies to avoid gunshots, altering their friends. But why did the Resident Evil Village wanted to make this game right now, and how was it inspired to do it in the first place and do the original game? Well, first of all, it's kind of obvious that the game that is now made in 2023 was made because lots of fans wanted this game to be made and loved original games so much that they wanted to see a remake. With the remake of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, they were eager to know and try a new game with a similar style. As for the inspiration, it isn't some huge revelation that Resident Evil has always borrowed heavily from B-rated horror film. Dagon is a 2001 B-rated horror film that featured a small group of characters vacationing on a boat off the shore of Spain. A remarkable storm breaks up, and our cast of characters are forced to take refuge in a nearby small fishing village that at first seems empty and abandoned. Things get turned for the worse when it turns out the town is infested with Spanish-speaking villagers that rampage after our hero with pitchforks and machetes, who turn out to be related to a religious cult. Our hero pushes bookshelves to block doors and jumps out of the windows when the villagers start to sprout tentacles. And yeah, this does sound awfully familiar. Now, this film isn't exactly like Resident Evil. Things are a lot more, for lack of better term, fishy. The setup is a bit different. Our main hero isn't nearly as cool as Leon, and towards the later parts of the film it pulls its Lovecraft themes heavily through. Now that I think about it, the Las Plagas wouldn't be completely out of place in a Lovecraft story. Resident Evil 4 is considered by many to be one of the best video game ever, so it's interesting to find that an unknown film seems to have been a huge source of inspiration for it. Not that I blame Capcom for that. Even before recognizing all the Resident Evil 4 similarities, I was thinking how cool of a video game this movie would make. It's also interesting to know that some of the concept art for Resident Evil 4 seems to have borrowed even more from the film that the game ended up pulling. You can likely find the film over rental services or for purchases in movie shops that specialize in a variety of slightly older films. All in all, this game is so amazing, so good, and it's just fun to play. It has beautiful settings, beautiful places. You can see, you can fight, you can try different things, you can buy different weapons, you can see the beautiful way that the mechanics work. The graphics are beautiful, I'd say. Some people might like it, some people might not like it, but that's up to you. You can write down in the comments if you think this is the best game of 2023 and if this game will win some awards, because I know it will. But that's all for today. I think the game is great, as I just said. And if you like the video, just subscribe, so whenever I upload a new video, it will come directly to you.